got so beat up going 0-3 the last time he was on the Best Bet show, he still's got a shiner. So, Byron, how you feeling?
I'm feeling morally, emotionally, I'm feeling okay. Morally, always feeling amazing, but emotionally getting there. Physically, still kind of recovering a little bit, but we're gonna kind of bounce back at the players. I love how you bring me on for both shows that have just lakes and lakes and lakes.
Mayo experience.
Mayo experience. Mayo experience. Mayo experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, presented by Underdog Fantasy. Code Mayo at Underdog Fantasy will get you a first-time match deposit of up to $100. So do that right now. Okay, thanks. Smash the like. Sub to the channel while you're here. If you're not subbed to the newsletter, you friends are missing out. It is completely free. It gets sent directly to you with news updates for the Players' Championship every single day. And as I made mention on Monday, this is the week to become a member at fantasynational.com. So you go to fantasynational.com/Mayo, you get 20% off. You get the monthly plan right now. It takes you players through the Masters. However, some of you have been seeing the app that I have been using over the past few months, the better version of the PGA Tour app, where you can track all your guys in real time, all on the same page, with Shot Tracker going live all at the same time. It's how you actually want to follow golf on your phone if you can't watch it live on TV or as a companion piece. So for Fantasy National members this week, and who have iOS capabilities, because right now it doesn't work on Android, the beta test is live as of Thursday. We will put a banner up on Fantasy National on Thursday morning before the Players' Championship, and you can go download that app. It's not 100% done, but it works for what you need it for right now, so we just want to share the love with everyone, and everyone who is a Fantasy National member can get access to that app and help us test it out to make it as good as it can be for when it comes out. So that's just an added bonus of everything that's going on at fantasynational.com right now, /Mayo, to get yourself that 20% off. Big show for the Players' Championship this week. We already talked about the outrights. We'll finalize the betting card on Wednesday with Ben Raza and do our DraftKings picks, but we need to hit these exotic markets. The top 40s, the top 20s, the first round leaders, the top 10 of the first round, whatever it might be, whatever bet wants to come out on the Best Bet show, it most definitely can come on the Best Bet show. So, joining me on the line right now, it's an international flavor. No Americans on the show. I mean, sometimes that happens when it's three Canadians talking football, but we're going global here. Ben Coley, I know you're powering through an illness right now. I really appreciate you coming on. Thanks for joining the show.
Thanks for having me, partner. You know what it's like. You got kids, right? And I have a bad diet as well, so throw those in, and I'm regularly ill. But I'm glad to be here.
And then from rotoballer.com, at the Model Maniac on Twitter, Byron Lindeque, who got so beat up going 0-3 the last time he was on the Best Bet show, he still's got a shiner. So, Byron, how you feeling?
I'm feeling morally, emotionally, I'm feeling okay. Morally, always feeling amazing, but emotionally getting there. Physically, still kind of recovering a little bit, but we're gonna kind of bounce back at the players. I love how you bring me on for both shows that have just lakes and lakes and lakes around the golf course, Pat. So I really appreciate the volatility of the events that you have me on here for. So maybe I show up with two black eyes the next time, but looking forward to a fun Players' Championship Best Bet show with you guys.
Hey, it'll be okay. You can come back on for the 3M Open and everything will be fine.
Hey, my boy Sam Donald's now up there, so we're going to have to maybe knock out two birds with one stone when we do that.
Well, last week it was DB, Cam, and myself. I hit my gold pick with Corey Connors. He held on for his top 20. Lost the other two. That was pretty disappointing. Actually, yeah, because I ended up going with Xander top 10. DB stole my matchup bet from me of Xander over Victor, which ended up winning by a stroke. So DB goes 2-1, and Cam hits Scotty Scheffler, top American, at 4-1. I mean, there was no one else that beat him anyway, but compared to what his outright odds were, I actually thought that was a really good market to hit. So let's hopefully we can jump on that. But I want to start with Scotty Scheffler above all things right now. Ben, I get the sense that, I'm one of these people that I'm just terrified that he's going to win. I'm not going to bet him, and I'm going to feel like an idiot for just not making one bet and it being on Scotty Scheffler. However, everyone seems to think his putting woes are solved after 1 week. I've learned from watching golf and studying it for a very long time, what happens 1 week may not happen the next week.
Yeah, too right. And I think a lot of people felt the same after the Hero, right? I know we don't have the strokes gain data to fully validate what we saw there at the back end of last year, but it looked as though Scotty Scheffler was going to come out his putting back to how it was in the spring of 2022 and win every tournament. And it's not quite gone like that. Obviously, it did last week. The switch to the mallet, the removal of the line from his ball. Everyone will know what he changed and what happened. I don't know. It feels like you missed the boat, ultimately. I mean, he was a bigger price last week to beat a weaker field on a course where you probably can get away with putting sort of okay anyway. And he got away with it last year in the Players, didn't he? He more than got away with it. He won by 5 putting okay. So, yeah, obviously he's the man to beat. Like I said, I think you missed the boat last week, really. And Sawgrass is one of those courses, like we know it's never been defended. I don't read too much into that. But I do think it's the sort of place where it catches everybody out at some stage. It's caught Scheffler out already. It could catch him out again. Even if he puts okay, I don't think it's the course where you'd say that means he'll definitely win, even though that might seem a bit foolish in 5 days' time.
Yeah, Byron, trying to take a look at it, as Ben mentioned, there's been no repeat winners, this being the 50th Players' Championship. And Scotty could play as well as he did last year. Like, people forget, the putter wasn't great last year. It was about break even. But dude chipped in like 4 times. And that's just hard to replicate year over year. Like, one bad drive, all of a sudden you're swimming and it throws off your entire tournament.
Facts. I mean, but it's hard to replicate for people like you and I, Pat, but Scotty, that's what he does. That's his job. He's so good at that. I mean, chipping in for him it's literally, he can do it in his sleep. And hitting bad drives, that's not what Scotty does. It's just incredible what he's been doing. Now, I'm not saying he's going to win again. The chances are probably better than most people that are trying to defend the Players for Scotty, but I don't buy it. I don't buy the overreaction to people kind of freaking out. If it happens, it happens. It's not going to happen every single week, right? And if it happens again this week, we're going to have even better odds next week to take advantage of. So bring it. Let's go. It's golf. Anything can happen. Hopefully for just a top 10 for Scotty this week.
Yeah, a nice T9, I think, would suffice for Scotty Scheffler. Open up all those 8 placings for the losers that I bet on it, like 175 to 1, and I will be very satisfied with that. I do want to let you know, we're going live on Wednesday evening for a Players Chat on Mayo Media Network with myself, and hopefully all of you will tune in for the final part of that. And then Wednesday morning, obviously, I have Ben Raza to talk about the DraftKings picks. Cut Sweat live on Friday with myself and some special guests. We're trying to figure out who those special guests are going to be because Cust is out of town and Jeff is going to be on an airplane. So some new blood coming on the Cut Sweat show with me. And you probably don't want to hear me ramble on for about 3 straight hours for myself. But I am giving away that $5,000 that is happening on Sunday. If you are not in the draw yet, you should most definitely get in that draw right now. Hit the description. There is a survey link down there. You need an Underdog account in order to enter the draw. So if you don't have one, code Mayo at Underdog. Make it easy on yourself. Deposit $10, deposit $100, get it matched, whatever it is. Then go to the survey. It takes 15 seconds to fill out. You put in your Underdog handle, the state you're from, hit enter, and boom, you are in that draw. 5 winners, $1,000 a piece, giving it out on Sunday near the conclusion of the Players' Championship. And then we'll be live on Mayo Media Network for Selection Sunday and filling out our bracket. Let's get to the gold picks for the Players' Championship. I will kick this one off, and it's funny because it's someone I don't think I don't want to say he doesn't have a chance to win outright, but it's not something that I wanted to take. But it's someone I feel very good about and how solid he's been playing, albeit last week didn't go as well as you would have wanted. But every week besides that, he's essentially top 20. He's won this tournament before. He's at a different stage of his career. And when you look at the courses that he's been playing really well at so far, basically over the past 18 months or so, they've all been some of these shorter tracks, Pete Dye tracks, one that kind of rely on accuracy, hit some good irons, make some putts, and not so much that you're going to win a tournament, but just linger around on that leaderboard, maybe the second page of the leaderboard. So my gold pick for the Players' Championship with no ties, this one's at Bet365, is going to be Adam Scott plus 280 to finish inside the top 20, Ben.
Yeah, I don't mind that at all. I looked at Scott. Like you said, he was a bit disappointing last week. It's strange tournament, Bay Hill now. It's kind of got a bit, it's grown into something more than it was before. And I don't know how much of a form guide it'll be to this. But I'm saying market for mine. I'm going Aaron Rai, who was 19th last year. He was in contention going into the final round. I think he was 4th. So it will have been a big final round for him. And obviously didn't go to plan. But he's rock solid. He's one of the best ball strikers in the field in terms of fairways and greens, the old-fashioned metrics, if you like. But Whenever we've seen him recently, I'd say pound for pound, he's probably the most accurate driver in this field, or thereabouts. When we last saw him in Mexico 2 weeks ago, he was third in strokes gained approach. He played Puerto Rico and did okay there. But I think both of those courses kind of work against him a little bit. They're wide off the tee. They allow players who are not as accurate as he is to get away with the odd loose one. And if you look at where he's had his success, he won at the course Liv were at actually last week at the start of his European Tour career. He won a Scottish Open. And by the way, he beat Tommy Fleetwood and Matt Fitzpatrick to these titles. So there's some big time opposition that he's come up against and seen off in those. He was second at Wentworth last year, and that's the sort of course for him. And if you look even at his PGA Tour form last year, Colonial, Canada, here at Sawgrass, where he, despite that final round, finished 19th. So I think that should be the sort of expectation for him again. I think he can probably do better, maybe crack the top 10. But for a top 20, I think he's rock solid. And for a final little nugget, he lives about 5 minutes away from Sawgrass. He practices there. He knows it really well. I think that played a part in why he played so well there last year. And hopefully it can do the same.
Byron, with Aaron Rai, do you think where he lives so close to the course, he can play the Cam Smith narrative that if we get some weather out of nowhere and it gets delayed for 3 days, he can just like chill at his house and everything will be fine?
Yeah, I don't know if he's as big a fisherman as Cam, but or a good putter, but it's always good to be at your house versus the hotel room. I think, eating too many restaurant bagels can kind of do you dirty every now and then. You got to make sure you can lean into the fridge and grab what you want to eat. But yeah, we'll see what Rai can get up to. I don't mind that play at all.
Yeah, so Aaron Rai right now, plus 300 if you include the ties in terms of the top 20. Did you find a better number than 3-1, Ben?
It's around that here. So yeah, something like that. Like I said, I've got him at 200 outright. Now those odds have changed quite a lot here over the last 24 hours, and the value's probably gone. So I would be looking to the side markets, and just the other way you could support him would be in the top Englishman market. It's not really one that I would usually look at for a player like him, because obviously at the very top of it, you've got some very, very good players with Sawgrass form. Tommy Fleetwood in particular, but Tommy was awful last week. Matt Fitzpatrick was awful last week. So all of a sudden, with no Tyrrell Hatton, that begins to look maybe a little bit more interesting than it would have done 12 months ago.
Byron, 0-3 last time. Let's go 3-0. Gold pick.
Let's go 0-3. No, let's go 3-0 again. I think you got me all wired up here again. So I'm going to go back to the guy that gave me the first shine on my face.
Oh, God.
And it was Russell Sex Panther Henley. And he is the Sex Panther because it's 64% of the time he's inside the top 20, 100% of the time. And I think that's where you want to go with him. He's just incredible around this golf course. The last 2 times he's played has been top 20s. He's just a repeated offender when it comes to these top 20 positions. He's plus 170 for tires paid in full on Bet365. I think, FanDuel had him at plus 220 to start the week. We're getting a guy that's over 50% in top 20s. When I bet him, obviously he doesn't finish inside the top 20, but last week he did it again at Bay Hill at a course that doesn't necessarily kind of fit his skill set as well as this venue. And what we're seeing from old Henley this week is he's morphed into some sort of like a short game specialist. He's completely gone away from being like this ball striking fiend where the accuracy and iron play has been what he's leaned on. Now he's just chipping and putting his way into top 6s at Bay Hill. So I'm not entirely sure what the heck's going on there, but either way, he's getting the job done. I kind of like him around Sawgrass quite a lot. Very accurate off the tee. Typically, he's kind of lost a bit of that. Maybe he's just spending his entire life on the chipping greens these days, but we'll see what Henley can get up to. I don't mind him at plus 170 to kind of go back again and beat me up one more time.
I bet Henley to win this tournament at 60-1. I know when I did my show on Saturday evening, the only market that was out at that point had him at 80-1. And by the time the odds got to me, it was 60-1. He's down to 40-1 in some spots right now. Do you worry that everyone's just kind of on Russell Henley?
The Russell Henley train is one with rails that are about as put together as Cust. And I think, riding that train is going to be fun. Enjoy. I never want to be a part of that. I don't think I have the nerves or the emotional capacity to kind of handle that stuff. But, with the short game like this, I think it's easier to spike on a week versus kind of just dialing in the irons every week like he does. So I don't know. I like the course fit for him.
Yeah, I love the course fit for him. What's your take on Henley this week, Ben?
Yeah, I've got him first round lead, actually. I think on that, there is a notable AM bias here. We've got a big field. The greens might get pretty churned up by the end of the day. Generally, we get a bit of wind in the afternoon in Florida. I know there's not much of that forecast for Thursday, but I think 2019 is the last time one of the PM wave shared the lead. That was Keegan Bradley. So I was looking at the morning starters, and Henley really stood out among them. He averages about one first-round lead every season. Hopefully it comes here. I agree totally that it's a really good fit. He's got loads of good peak dive form. He shot 65, I think, his first ever round here. Might have been his second visit. I think it was his first, but he was second after round one that time. And the last couple of years, he's got back in love with the course, I think. And I think he's an underrated player generally. Now, obviously, with his outright odds coming in towards 40, that probably no longer applies this week. But I think first round lead, top 20, those sort of markets, 100%. And finally, isn't it great that when commentators say he's one of the best putters on the PGA Tour, it is again true, because they've been saying it for about 10 years and it hasn't been true. But after the last 2 weeks, it's true again. So the commentators are no longer talking nonsense.
Byron, I want to jump over to first round pick'em. I got some head-to-head matchups here for you, and it's one or the other. So I want to run through a gauntlet here. This is all on Underdog right now, and I'll release the slip a little bit later on during Tuesday afternoon if people want to come along to see if we can come up with a 2-banger or a 3-banger. There's some intriguing round one matchups here. One of them is Sam Burns versus Tommy Fleetwood. Do you just say, I know Burns got it going bad on Sunday, but Tommy has looked out of sorts. Do we just roll with Burns?
That's a tricky one because Tommy's actually got a much better round one scoring average than Burns does, but Burns obviously playing much better than Tommy right now. So to me, it's like one box check, the other not. I don't know, Pat. Have you got more options for me?
I do.
I don't know.
Put it this way. You can pick Fleetwood, Burns, or pass. Those are your options because there's plenty of options. Pass. Ben, do you have a lean here?
Burns is another one of my first round leader options. So he's been inside the top 10 the first round the last 2 years here. I don't see him playing well for 4.5 rounds to win the Players, but I could definitely see him being one of those, especially as it's calm on Thursday morning. So yeah, I'll go Burns.
And it is looking calm on Thursday morning right now. Again, you can find this entry and all of the weather report and the tee times in the newsletter. Code Mayo at Underdog to get in on the action. If you want to get in on this, get a deposit match of up to $100. Rory versus Hovland, round one, Ben.
Oh, Rory. Yeah. Hovland's probably changed coach again since last week, hasn't he? But you need to see a little bit better from him. It's not Rory's course, really, is it? But he did win here 5 years ago. So, yeah, why not? I'm a Rory fanboy. You might as well. You could say Rory versus Scheffler, Rory against peak Tiger Woods. I'm choosing Rory every time. So, sorry.
Byron?
Jesus, Pat, you're giving me these conundrums early in the morning in Iowa. I'm not entirely sure I'm a fan of either right now. Okay, so I'm going to go pass again. But pass
is a good option sometimes.
Yeah. I don't like Rory at all this week either.
Okay.
But I like Victor less, if that answers your question.
Adam Scott against Tom Kim. I like Adam Scott round one. I'm just out on Tom Kim right now, Byron.
Adam Scott's 8th in strokes gained round one. Boom. Tom Kim. The only time I bet Tom Kim over last week, he shot under par in the windiest day of the week. So good for Tom Kim. He's like also part of the black eye situation here, but give me Adam Scott over Tom Kim every round one.
Ben, like I usually just bet Morikawa, and then like last year was like, oh yeah, this is a perfect course for Tom Kim. It still is a perfect course for Tom Kim. I just don't trust him right now.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. He's been fairly lackluster, hasn't he, this year? The odd bright spark. I like you. I think he's someone who can win the Players at some stage in the future. But at the moment, I'd take Adam Scott. Yeah.
Okay, this one's a tight one. You got Brian Harman against Corey Connors. Two guys coming in pretty good form. Ben, do you have a lean?
I'll play the pass card. I've got Harman outright. If you ask me over 72, I'd take Harman, but over 18, Corey's been starting quite well. Have 6 feet for birdie on at least 15 holes, so I don't want to be opposing that really.
I also have Harman outright, Byron, and I think I might make Corey Connors one of my medal selections again this week after he won it for me, but it won't be an outright bet. Do you have either a preference for round one on these guys?
I think Ben's on it spot on there. I think Corey the putting can just kind of spike for round one, round two before it gets a little tense over the weekend. Harman, again, I think in a full tournament matchup, definitely the way to go.
All right, last one. Byron, this one's on you. Matt Fitzpatrick against Hideki Matsuyama, who Cuss claims is the 2020 Players Champion.
Jesus, the two most volatile guys that you could imagine there. I think just Hideki's playing better. Now, if he can survive playing another tournament with a numb leg, I think we can cash that one. Fitz is probably going to find multiple water balls or win the tournament. We don't know what, but I think one's more likely than the other, and I'd go Hideki, at least for round one. Yeah.
Yeah, Hideki's got a really good record here. Obviously, I don't think Matt Fitzpatrick's long game is anywhere near where it should be. So I'd make him, of the options you've given us, I'd say Hideki's probably the strongest.
All right. So that will be our underdog entry for round one of the Players' Championship. We got Hideki in the rivals section over Matt Fitzpatrick, Adam Scott over Tom Kim, and Sam Burns over Tommy Fleetwood, all in a fewer strokes matchup. 100 turns into 600. If we go 3 for 3, you could always insure it if that's what you want to do as well. So those will be the plays for Underdog in round one. Code Mayo Underdog Fantasy. Once you get your handle, enter that survey, and then you can win another $1,000. That one's just for free. You get $1,000. You can fire at all of these if that's what you want to do. Silver picks for the Players' Championship. I'm going down the board a little bit to a top 40 wager with ties included. So, I mean, you could always juice that up and do a top 30 if you want to get greedy, take the ties out of the situation. But it's a guy that I go to almost every single week in these placement markets, and he's been very good. 15th in approach on the year. Coming into this tournament, plays Pete Dye courses really well, Ben. It is Carson Young plus 230 for a top 40.
I wasn't expecting to hear the name Carson Young during this chat, so good luck to you. Yeah, I don't see why not. I've got hopefully a market that is available over there. It certainly is over here. I've gone for the top continental European market, and it might seem foolish come the weekend to be taking on two Ryder Cup record breakers, Victor Hovland and Ludwig Aubert. But Alex Noren's 9-1. He's got a good record here. You know, he's in contention the first 2 times he played it. It's a good course for him. You know, he's not a long hitter, but he's excellent with his irons. He's got a brilliant short game. He's playing well, top 10 in the Honda Cognizant, whatever you want to call it, last time out. And obviously, Victor, you know, he showed the odd flash at Bay Hill, but he's clearly not been anywhere near his best. And Ludwig plays this event for the first time. I know he's played the course before, but I would also say, I mean, his approach play was awful last week, and it's just a bit like Rory, really. You're taking, to some extent, the number one weapon they have, and rendering it less of a weapon. So I'd be happy enough to take a chance on Alex Noren. You've got a few others, obviously, Stefan Jaeger, Molinari, Thomas Dietrich, but there's no one really further down that would worry me too much. And I think Alex Noren's by far the most likely to turn them over. So yeah, 9-1 over here.
Do you have a take on this market, Byron?
For Alex Noren, I think there's some interesting names that could definitely jump. I think, how many times have we seen Europeans win this Players Tournament? It's not necessarily like Bay Hill that much, is it?
Trying to think.
No, I mean, we're still waiting for an English winner. Obviously, Martin Keimer and Rory would be the last 2 Europeans. Sergio's won it. Stenson's won it. Yeah, England, no. Europe, not so bad.
Yeah, so I don't mind it at all. I think it fits Noren's, skill set, like Ben said, they're quite nicely. It's a hefty. I mean, 9-1 is a delightful number. Everyone likes to bet those kind of odds. And, the top Europeans aren't really playing good golf right now. I don't know what's kind of happening over there. Rory, Victor, like you said, the only person, Shane could be a potential party spoiler there, but
it's continental European, so no British Isles here.
Well, there we go. Pardon my geographical ineptitude there, but we'll have to kind of then lean into it even more then. I like it even better.
All right. Do you have a take on Carson Young? Because he's just kind of my guy. I love Carson Young.
Yeah, I think you've got a nice little edge there, Pat. I think Carson's finishing inside the top 40 about 1 in every 3 times he tees it up. I think at those odds, you're going to get a bit of a nice situation. And he's playing good golf right now. I think he's really playing good golf. And it's a bet that doesn't have to rely on him like getting too close to the top of the leaderboard to cash at a very nice number. He can just kind of have a good week and still do it for you without kind of, having to deal with nerves at a top 20 situation.
Yeah, this happened to me last year because I had Ben Griffin top 40. I had Justin Suh top 30. Obviously, he ended up coming through. And I think I had Eric Cole on that list as well. And then Ben Griffin was like fringe top 10, I think, going into Sunday. And I think he finished 37th or something like that. It's just, no matter what you think is happening at this course, as long as your guys make the cut, they're kind of live for any finishing position.
Fact. It's a disaster, man. It's so much fun. And I think from what I saw, Saturday looks like some serious wind, at least picking up in the afternoon. So we'll have to see what happens there. I think we want to see some Saturday hole number 17 disasters and kind of have Brandel kind of go on another rant about how that golf hole is one of the worst in the world.
Yeah, I mean, no one really cares about what he says, do they?
The live bots love it. You know, it's all the engagement in the world that they could ever get. But yeah, no one really cares. But it's fun to watch him bitch and moan.
Well, it's too bad we don't have Abraham Answer in the field this week, only because this would have been the perfect course for him. I don't know, because you guys have, I mean, you be with me on this, Byron. Like, the President's Cup is coming up. Like, it was weirdly devastating because it's going to be in Canada. I'm going to be there. And this probably means there's more Canadians on the team, which probably means bad news for the President's Cup team. But just there are so many live guys that would just help out this team. Like, even if you brought them all of like the top 5 live international players to put them on the international team, like they would still be massive underdogs to the American team, but it'd be like a 2-1 underdog, not a 4-1 underdog like it is right now. It's devastating.
Yeah, no, they're an underdog now with worms and like one leg missing. It's just a gimp dog walking around there in Canada. And it's going to be I've already bet it at minus 220. I think I just bet USA to win. I think that's just how it's going to be. I don't think you're going to find a better number than that as it leads up to the week. I mean, we had USA minus 150 against Europe when we all thought they were going to go to Rome and win. We had massive confidence in them and Zach Johnson, which may never, ever come out of my mouth again. But I think that number's going to kind of drift away from minus 220 there quite quickly.
So I ran some simulations to 1,000 for this tournament, and Carson Young actually finishes inside the top 20, 21% of the time. So maybe I'll have to play a little bit of a ladder with him, 40, 30, 20, because I'm going to get better than 5-1 on his top 20 odds, even with the ties included. So that's a market that I'm looking at sometimes with these simulations, and he just ends up popping almost every single time. Aaron Rye way up there as well in terms of top 20 percentage. So Byron, your silver pick.
Just on Carson Young real quick, if you've bet him to win $100 every tournament, you would have won 477 over the last 12 months, which is the 4th best return out of everyone. It's Cam Davis, Russell Henley, and Scotty Scheffler ahead of him. So very nice bet there, Pat. I am going to go Mathieu Pavon over Nikolai Højgaard over at FanDuel and at minus 110. I don't quite understand why we're getting pretty much a pick'em situation there. Mathieu's been playing phenomenally consistent golf. I feel like Bay Hill isn't necessarily the greatest course fit for him, and he still finished, I think, better than Nikolai. We missed the cut. His game is just in shambles, Nikolai's, and I think this golf course really suits Mathieu. I have him for an outright. I have him for a top 40. I'm going to be betting him in a matchup. So there's all sorts of stuff I'm going to be kind of taking advantage of. I feel like he's being a little bit disrespected for what he's done so far. He's like 6,700 on DraftKings. It's just a crazy situation, and I want to take advantage of that, especially with Nikolai not playing the greatest golf on a golf course that kind of also takes one of his biggest weapons out of his hand with the driver.
Well, it's the first thing that kind of occurred to me when I looked at the odds once they were released. As I too bet Pavon at 125-1. I got my 8 placings to go along with it, and I was just very surprised at that number. Ben, you're probably more familiar with Pavon than either Byron or I long term, just playing on the DP World Tour for so long. Like, is this the best he's ever played over the last 4 months, or has it always been kind of consistent for him?
No, he's taken his game up several notches. It would have been hard to predict. I don't think anybody. I think if you go back 8-9 months, a lot of people would have had him in your sort of top 10 players on the DP World Tour, if not yet won. But that would have been about it. You know, he's in his 30s. He's been around a while. He could have won the Scottish Open the year Cabrera Bello did. I think 2017. He was in the mix there. He had a chance to win in Portugal when we came out of the pandemic in 2020. But basically, he's been a solid but unexciting golfer, and he's taken his game to a new level. And I love it. I mean, it's great to see anyone do that. And it shows that the margins between guys like him and someone like Thomas Dietrich, say, like, if the penny drops for Thomas Dietrich and he wins the tournament, then who's to say how far he could go or couldn't go? And I know a lot of the French players have been talking about how inspired they are, how much they believe in themselves more because they've played with him. They know that he was just like them. We've had a French winner on the Challenge Tour a couple of weeks ago, right after the Pavon won. And it's nice to see that sort of Ryder Cup effect as well. Like, I think you have to give it a few years, when a country like France, which isn't a big golfing nation, hosts a Ryder Cup, the sort of trickle down effect takes a while, and we're seeing some really good French kids come through now. So good luck to him. Like you say, the way he's playing at the moment, he is underestimated. I think it's probably harder for people like me who've seen him to get our head round where he is. You know, like if you'd have asked me 2 years ago, Pavon Players Championship, I'd have said, "What, has he bought a ticket?" Because qualifying for it and having a chance to win it seemed unrealistic. But here we are.
So, like, what is his, like, I can look at his stats from what I've seen so far on the PGA Tour. Like, I never thought that he would have a chance at Torrey Pines, of all places. This would always have been more of a venue where I would have expected him to do well. But, what does his game even really look like? What does he do well? Or is it just kind of one of those bit of everything guys?
When he first came out, he was kind of known for being a really solid driver of the ball. But he had a bit of a short game problem and he was chipping cross-handed. Now, I'll be honest, having not watched a great deal of Farmers, I don't know if he's still doing that. But I feel like that might have been the missing piece of the jigsaw, that he was one of these guys who was kind of like a Hovland, I suppose, where he was really losing quite a lot of shots around the greens and not really being good enough to account for it elsewhere, like Hovland obviously was. But now he does everything well, and he certainly gained some confidence in the putter. You saw the putt he drained to win at Torrey Pines. So at the moment, there's really nothing wrong with his game. And he's probably a golfer that doesn't have a big miss as well, which is always, you know, probably the one thing that's remained constant. He's always been really, really solid. You know, slightly above average, like a Sung Jae Im type driver, you know, slightly above average distance, slightly above average accuracy, and therefore not making a lot of mistakes. Like you, I wouldn't have had Torrey Pines down as the place to win. But he did it. And going back to the selection here against Nicolai, well, he beat Nicolai narrowly at Torrey Pines when everything is stacked in Nicolai's favour. And for all that, I love Nicolai, and I think in the long term he'll be better. Around Sawgrass, I definitely give the edge to Bob Bond.
So before we get to the bronze picks, I did want to talk about some struggling golfers for a minute, just because one of them is going to do well. Then hell, they might all do well, and everyone's kind of fading them. And we've talked about them briefly. Like Rory is not struggling as much as some of them, but he's not playing to peak Rory right now. Hovland is very clearly struggling. Matt Fitzpatrick, Fleetwood, Sung Jae got it turned around a little bit at Bay Hill, but he's not playing great golf. Morikawa, Tom Kim, Byron, of all those guys, who can you see? Maybe throw Rory out because Rory's Rory, and he can just kind of explode at a moment's notice. Would you have confidence in that they will play well this week?
I would say Victor. I just feel like his short game ineptitude is kind of going to be nullified slightly. Yeah, he can putt from off the greens a lot more at this venue than you typically would have at other courses. And he's played so well. Yeah, it suits his game. He's so accurate off the tee with the driver when he needs to be. He's a great iron player. I think maybe once he finds himself on a course like this, he can really shine. And we're just waiting for him to kind of bounce back. It's been the around the green stuff that's really kept him out of the loop a little bit. So I'm looking for a little bit of a bounce back there. Like you said, tough to trust any of those names, and one of them is going to play well potentially. So you're going to have to roster one or two, but Victor would be my guy.
Ben, who would it be for you in like a bounce back, perfect course fit? Would it be Fitzpatrick, just based on the way that he played at PGA National, that maybe just the tighter confines, having to really dial it in with his accuracy, might just be something he needs right now?
Yeah, it could be. I kind of think with Matt, when his long game goes, he's probably a bit hard on himself. And I don't know, for him, I think maybe we'll have to wait a little while longer. Maybe by the time Heritage comes around, he'll be in better shape. But it would probably be Morikawa for me, partly because he's got, you know, this track record of just going from looking completely lost to winning tournaments the next week. Like obviously the Open, he was really poor in the Scottish. When he won the event in Florida at the concession, he'd been pretty poor at Riviera. Well, he putted badly and finished down the field. I sort of kept looking at last week because I watched a lot of it last week. He was in the group with Rory and he played really well in the first round. And then he comes out in round two and he hits his first drive out of bounds. And it would just look like one of those days, you know, like it just from that moment he was up against it. And I know shooting 80 is not good and he should expect better of himself. But given that, you know, this is a really good course for his sort of positional game, if he can just have an okay putting week, I think he'll play well. The caveat is that he's had one okay putting week ever in Florida. He did win that week. And if he puts well this week, he might well win again. But yeah, he'd be the one. He's got a great record at just putting things behind him and getting back on track. And I think this suits him more than Bay Hill.
All right, bronze picks. Byron, we'll lead off with you on this one.
Cool. Let's go with the Gim Reaper for a top 20 at +333, baby. I think I like those odds as a good omen. He's been repping out top 20s like Bryson DeChambeau in the gym. I think he's had a top 6 year and another top 30 in the past. The ball striking is looking delightful. I love the general course fit for Doug Gim. He's just doing some wonderful stuff when it comes to the ball striking right now. He typically finds his short game a bit better on these Florida tracks, especially at the Players. And I mean, that number's really, really juicy. I think it was a +400 at one point, and it's been bet down to 333 now. So there's a lot of movement in that market there. And it's a greasy little number there. It's a bronze pick, though. So we're going to kind of hope that if the other two let me down, we can have Doug Gim covering our tail for us there at +333.
Yeah, I never need to be sold on the Gim Reaper. Although he prefers to be called Gim T or Gim Chi, as I've heard. But I still prefer Gim Reaper for just what he would do to so many of my bets and so many of my lineups over the course of the past few years. But maybe I have to jump on. It'd be weird that like everyone's on Doug Gim at a tournament and I'm the one who's not on him. I may have to throw down some action in some capacity on Doug Gim. Do you feel like Doug Gim is a bit of fool's gold here, Ben, with everyone just being like, well, obviously he's going to play well at the Players. He's played well here before, and he's playing good golf right now. How could this go wrong?
Yeah, there's an element of that, I guess. But I like the market he's chosen. Like that's kind of him. When he makes the cut, he tends to be, in the top half of those who do. And we saw it was him, wasn't it, who contended when did he play with JT and when Justin Thomas won? I think Gim was in the group with him and had a tough day, but he was a rookie back then. And it's clearly a good course for him. And yeah, I don't mind it at all. He wasn't for me, but I don't mind it.
Yeah, I'm looking at my stat rankings right now, Byron, and I have Gim. Gim comes in 12th of all players in this field for 2024, based on his numbers. It's crazy.
Yeah, he's crazy right now. Like, he's a totally different golfer. But the crazy thing about Gim, a third of the time he's top 20. He's only inside the top 10 like 4% of the time. So that's his thing. He's like, he finds that little soft spot just inside the top 20 and just hangs out there. So hopefully he just does that again. And, any upside can be damned with him. I don't expect him to finish inside the top 10, but I really expect him to finish inside the top 20.
All right, Ben, your final selection, the bronze pick.
Yeah, I'm giving you a double here, so it's 2 in 1. But most bookmakers over here will let you do it. If some don't, then so be it. But top left-handed player, there are 3 of them, and Brian Harman should win. The others are Garrett Heat.
This is my bronze pick too. Yeah, my bronze pick is Harman, top lefty as well. Yeah.
Happy days. Yeah, I mean, the other two, no offense to the great nation of South Africa, but Gary Higo is going to hit the ball in the water too often here. And I'm a very, very big fan of Bob McIntyre, but I suspect he will do exactly the same. Like, Bob just loves to play aggressive golf. And the whole point of Sawgrass is that you need to show some restraint. And I think it could get him in trouble. If you can double it, I'd be doubling it with Emiliano Grillo to be the top South American. There's nothing particularly exciting about this, except the fact that I think he should win. He's got Nicolas Echeverria and Camilo Villegas. Obviously, once upon a time nearly won this, but more recently has struggled around here. Grillo's just rock solid. He's putting better at the moment. He's got loads of Pete Dye form. He's got enough good form at Sawgrass to think that if the putter behaves, then he can just amble around in 30th or something like that. And I think the other two will miss the cut, so that should be that.
Yeah, both of them come in at -150. I bet Grillo to win this tournament, so I am 100% on board with you just to be top South American, hopefully. If he doesn't get that done, I think my outright bet's in a whole lot of trouble with Grillo here. So yeah, just take two accurate players, 2 guys that are way better than everyone else in their market. I love that. And that is my bronze pick as well, is Brian Harman, top left-handed player, -150. I gave a few, I was talking about Corey Connors, like Corey Connors, top 20, maybe even Sam Burns, top 20. I was looking for stuff a little bit longer down the list. I suppose you could play like Grillo. Ben, what do you make of Eckroth this week? Because based on his profile, obviously he won 2 weeks ago, but he continued the hot iron play at Bay Hill. He's gained over 4 strokes on approach in 3 straight tournaments. And dude hits like every fairway.
Yeah, I don't mind him at all. There's just that slight worry that, it's been a big 3 weeks for him. And I know he's only 25. It's not like he's going to be as tired as I am all the time. But he maybe just might run out of gas. There's always that risk, right? I'm trying to think of a comparison. There's probably not a good one, but Eric Cole in this last year started really slowly after a couple of big weeks because he finished second in the Honda, and then he played Bay Hill where he got a lot of history and what have you. And then he came here and he was pretty sloppy early on, and he finished really well, finished 23rd, and maybe something like that might happen again. But yeah, I think Ekro is a player to be interested in the long term, but now it's kind of like, there's a lull coming before he takes his game up another gear.
I want to actually talk about Eric Cole for a sec, Byron. He's 110 to 1 to win this tournament now. If this tournament happened 2 weeks ago, he'd be 40 to 1.
Yes. And it was, 5 golf shots that we got pretty much a point for each added to his outright, market. So I think the overreaction is unjustified there. I don't ever think he's going to win a tournament, though. But I think, if you want to look at an upside bet for him, like top 5 is perfect. I think that's the way to go with Eric Cole. Granted, he might end up winning this thing after I said it because I came out bashing Minwoo last time and he came second too. So maybe slate in Cole there for a second place. But I love the course fits again. Like, it's basically a PGA National, but just a bit more of an elite status. And I think, this kind of venue suits him. And his driver has got significantly better. Now, we had a few bad shots at PGA National, but he's in general been hitting the golf ball much better off the tee, which is essential around here. And the rest of his game is top end. So love Eric Cole this week.
It's funny because this
I like him for his.
Oh, go ahead, Ben.
Sorry, Pat.
No, go ahead, Ben.
I like him for his 3-ball on Thursday. He plays with Harry Hall, who's pretty wild and just a couple of grades below him, and Ben Martin, who was like 5th here, I think, 10 years ago, but since then has not shot anything better than about 72. Eric Cole, I believe plus money is the correct vernacular. He looks rock solid to me because, I thought the Cognizant, it's really hard to go back there a year after he nearly won it with all the, probably with the first time in his PGA Tour career where he thought I could win this week or expected to play well. And that's a really difficult thing to do. And he had a bad week. He came out, he played better at Bay Hill. And I think he'll play well again this week.
Yeah, a few other guys just to make note of. There's one at the top, and then there's a few right around that same range as Eric Cole, Ben. But are we silly for not just riding the form of Shane Lowry?
Maybe. He was 66 to 1 last week, and he's 33 to 1 this week. I love Shane. Look, I put up Shane in God knows how many big tournaments over the last 5-6 years. I don't know. Yeah. Maybe we are, but he didn't interest me. Like, he's the same price as Morikawa over here, and there's a limit, right? And actually, you can get 10 to 11 McIlroy to be the top Irish player here, and it's Seamus Power also technically counts, but I don't think we should worry about him really. 10 to 11 to beat Shane Lowry, like, again, he is a significantly better golfer. If that's not too simplistic. So yeah, I'd be more interested in being contrarian and saying, yeah, Shane might have a bit of an off week and Rory beats him.
Yeah, and we just talked about, Ekro. He's 25. He's, had a big win, played a few weeks in a row. Byron, what do you make of Lowry? Like, he's a big dude, and this will be 3 weeks in a row for him.
He's a big dude, but hey, I'm a big dude and I can hang every now and then. You just got to dig deep, especially when it's the Players Championship. So I think he'll be okay. I love Lowry for a first-round leader. He's been coming out really hot in round 1 lately. It's just, he's one of the best golfers on the planet, Thursday through Saturday. And then it was so funny when he was in his presser. He said, even if I try to put any pressure on Scotty, it wouldn't have worked. Buddy, you weren't going to be you could have had your best performance ever on a Sunday and it wouldn't have mattered at all. But you're pretending like you're going to put any pressure on him anyway is just bizarre to me on a Sunday. I don't, Shane's just got the demons on a Sunday. It's incredible. You can't play as well as he has and then suck it up on a Sunday that bad. So a top 20 for me is a very nice bet. I think plus 150 there. He's been doing it historically that well. And now he's playing on Florida courses, playing good golf. I don't mind it at all. I kind of like his safety. I don't like his upside whatsoever.
Yeah, and he's sort of in that Corey Connors mold for me, that when it comes time to make putts to win the tournament, it just feels like he's never going to make them.
No. And it's going to be obvious before it happens. We're all going to sit there just feeling sorry for him before he even puts his putter behind the ball.
Last thing, there's this group of guys right around anywhere between 100 and 150 to 1. And they're either some sort of compilation of guys that we've talked about who are either on like descending form but have been much higher up in markets for the past few months, or sort of risers, fit a statistical profile, good course history, or similar comp course history, or have just been playing great golf right now. So I just want to throw you a list of names here and just get a little bit of insight on who might actually be the best of these bets. Now, I think it's going to be Aaron Rai for Ben, so we'll leave Aaron Rai off of this, but you got Keith Mitchell, Griot, Rose, Cam Davis, JT Poston, Eric Cole, Chris Kirk, EVR, Billy Horschel, Nick Taylor, Bezadenhout, and Jake Knapp. Like, all those guys have kind of popped up, Ben, over the course of the past 3 months. Like, Poston was legitimately like 20-1 to win Phoenix, and people were betting him. And now he's 100-1 and a much better course for him.
Yeah, he seems to have gone off the ball a little bit, doesn't he? But you're right. I mean, his putter's kind of cooled a little bit, and at some stage that will come back. So yeah, I can see that. There are quite a few names there that I did look at. Keith Mitchell has got bits and pieces here. He obviously won the Honda. He's definitely shown some improvements with his irons lately, but it frustrates the hell out of me. I was on him in Mexico, and he was so bad for the first 2 hours of that tournament. And I really do feel like that could have been a great chance for him to win. Had he been awake when it started. The one I like, and he's the one probably of those with the greatest upside, but with the greatest risk, is Justin Rose. This is a really good course for someone with, and a good event, you know, the stature of it, for someone with his CV and someone who can still plot his way around. You know, he was 6th last year and he didn't putt well. I think he has 2 top 10s his last 3 starts in the Players. He's got loads of Pete Dye form. Like, you look everywhere he's played a Pete Dye course, he's played it well. Obviously, at the moment, his approach play is rubbish, and that's going to have to improve. He shot some big numbers last week, but he's a bit like Morikawa. Again, it's probably a bit too much into the weeds. It's probably me looking for some hope where there is none. But he got to the 10th hole last week, comfortably inside the cut line. And he 3-putted from 20-odd feet, and then he 3-putted the 11th from 4 feet, and then he hit it to within 50 feet of the hole on 12, the par 5, in 2, and made an 8. So he had like half an hour of complete madness on and around the greens. And that's the only reason he didn't comfortably make the cut. And you can see that as a big problem, which it might well be. But I was happy enough to take the chance, because I would not at all be surprised if Justin Rose is in the thick of this tournament on Sunday.
Yeah, there's always one of the older players who have the required skill set, Byron, that just pops up at this tournament that's like once every 5 years. Like, if somehow Molinari got himself into, be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. This is the one place where he'd play well.
Yep, I couldn't agree more. I think another older guy, but in much better shape than the majority of them, is Billy Horschel. He played really nicely at the Cognizant, and I think he's actually been trending pretty nicely, especially over in Europe. He played I think he found his form back over in Europe there for that like stint towards the end of the year, and then came back, played nicely at the Sony, played nicely at the Cog last time, and I think at this venue, he's getting underpriced, he's undervalued in DFS. I think he's a sneaky little play. He's a grinder. You know, I think this course requires that mentality to kind of do it. He's accurate off the tee, and he can putt lights out when he wants to. So he's someone I kind of have my eye on in particular. And then Jake Knapp is I think people are thinking that he's like this big bomber, kind of bomb and gouge situation. I think he actually really suits these narrower courses really well too, because he can just hit those 3 irons off the tee much better than most people can hit driver, right? So his iron play has just been immaculate. And I think, you know, the pressure to succeed at this venue is not going to be nearly as big as like Bay Hill.
Yeah, I can see that, because, I mean, obviously his profile just lines up to be a bomber because he can hit it so far, but he got into such trouble last week. And it's almost like what Ben said about Bobby Mack a little bit earlier about how he just wants to play aggressive. It feels like now you don't make a 12 not trying to play super aggressive. Like, he didn't have to take on as much as he was taking on. And I worry, because that used to happen to Rahm at this course too. Like 5 years ago, like he would get to a spot where all he had to do was do the sensible thing. And what did he do? Try to do the stupidest thing possible. And it screwed him every single time. And I feel like Knapp is kind of Knapp's in YOLO mode right now. Like, he is just free rolling life at the moment. You don't think he's going to try to go for every pin if there's just a chance that he could do it? I think that he will. I think that might come back to bite him here. That'd be.
Maybe,
yeah.
But
yeah,
I think with the weather it is, you're going to have to make birdies to play well. So he's got the game to do it, you know. So we'll see. Anything could happen this week, boys. I'm dreading it.
Yeah, and it's just going to be Scheffler by 10, and we're all going to look stupid. So, Ben, before I let you get out of here, who are some of your bets to win? You mentioned Harman. I assume Morikawa, because you've brought him up a bunch of times.
No, I left him out in the end, but I was close. I'm sure I'll regret it, but I'm on Spieth because stubbornly I've always thought Jordan Spieth will win the Players' Championship. And, you might only have 5 or 6 more realistic chances, so I might as well stick with the theory until I can't anymore. I really like Max Homer. A lot of people will be of the same view. He did really well against the draw bias here 2 years ago, really well last year, and it seems to have come around. Obviously, a top 10 last week at Bay Hill. Justin Thomas, so they're my big 3 from near the top. I think, we'd probably get a world-class winner of this tournament, so I'll take those 3. I like Harman, Rose, and Rai as the big prices.
All right, so Byron, I too am on Justin Thomas. I nabbed him at 25-1 at Open, and he's probably, he's the third favorite now. He's down to 18-1 in some places, but I just think that everything is kind of setting up for him. We need that one iron week from him, and him not to have a terrible 9 somewhere on the weekend, and maybe we can push forward with another Justin Thomas. This would be sort of like the end of the comeback for him, wouldn't it? That he went from nothing, and now he's been great for 6 months, and now he gets back to, well, I guess there's a PGA championship coming up, but Players and PGA seem to be his jams.
Yeah, they do. And I think, if you think about Justin Thomas, though, Pat, doing the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. Justin Thomas is going to have a bad 9, and it's going to happen around this golf course in particular. All of his wins, the PGA championship, the Players, came from miles behind. He's a chaser. I think he's a live bet guy for me. I don't also, everyone's saying Justin Thomas is back. He's back to finishing inside the top 10 repeatedly. I don't think he's going to be winning tournaments like from the lead, but I don't, obviously he fits the narrative. Yeah. So I don't mind him, I guess.
Who are your outright so far?
I've got 10. So buckle up. I'll start with the one that we're overlapping with, and that's Brian Harman. Love what he can get up to. The irons are starting to peak. Got Max Homer, Wyndham Clark, Sahith Theegala, a little bit of a FOMO Minwoo Lee play there. Benny On, Tom Hoagie, Mathieu Pavon, Billy Horschel at 200-1, and then Nick Taylor as well. I think that number's about halved since we bet it. So got like a bunch of guys playing some good golf. Maybe one of them gets through.
Yeah, Justin Thomas is the only guy near the top that I have, so I'll probably add 1 or 2 by the time I finalize my selections for the Wednesday show when we get to the live chat on Wednesday evening. Probably going to happen around 7:30 p.m. Eastern time is when I'm, maybe 7. Depends on when my kids go to bed. Once I get to bed, I'll start doing the live stream and take all of your questions and finalize everything. But that will do it on this edition of the Pat Mayo Experience. Best bets for the Players' Championship. Byron, when does the Breaking 100 come out?
Breaking 100 is coming out this afternoon after I get the stat buffet out there. Code Maniac gets you into the premium side of things there. Lots of fun stuff. I got my back 9 bet show tonight at 7 Eastern.
Ben, I was already reading your first round 3-ball tips on Sporting Life. I do like this Cole to beat Martin and Hall. I like that a lot. What else do you have coming out over the course of the next 2 days?
Nothing. I'm going to bed. No, I genuinely don't think I have anything. I've done everything I'm going to do pre-tournament, but I'll be previewing every round as we go through it, providing I'm still standing. So, yeah, I'm not dramatic at all. Yeah, it's going to be a good week. I'm determined to enjoy it. I've not enjoyed a lot of golf tournaments this year, just from a pure, just enjoy the golf tournament. Partly because loads of them have been rubbish, partly because I think my attitude's been wrong. So that all changes this week.
Yeah, I've sort of embraced it, and maybe I'll just bet Nick Dunlap to win this one. He'll be the Pete Dye specialist that we all deserve at like 500-1. But Ben, if you want to enjoy golf, I've heard from the internet, from these people who have no profiles and a lot of numbers in their name, that I just have to wake up in the middle of the night and watch Hong Kong golf.
So I'm told, yeah. So Macau Open this week as well on the Asian Tours International Series. Their press release today described Ian Poulter as a live golf legend. Best finish of 8th so far. So
that will do it on the show. Thank you both for being on. Thanks, Ben, for powering through the illness. Maybe your eye will heal up with a 3-0 week this week, Byron. That would be very nice. Again, fantasynational.com/Mayo gets you 20% off. The monthly gets you players through the Masters. And if you are a member, on Thursday this week before the tournament starts, there will be a banner on the page to beta test our brand new app, which is a live leaderboard. Everything that you've always wanted from an app as a leaderboard to follow golf. We think think that we've made it for you. So we want your help to improve that before we put it out to the public. So that's just another perk of being a member at fantasynational.com right now. Underdog Fantasy code Mayo get you a deposit match of up to $100. The newsletter, the smashing of the likes, the downloading of the podcast, and hopefully some winners will emerge out of that. All right, I'm Pat Mayo. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.
That Mayo experience! Experience!